Hello once again, and welcome to Heroes and Droids, your guide to TV and movies, TV shows and movies. We'll get it right one day. About sci-fi, superheroes, Disney, and action. From Marvel to DC, from Star Wars to Star Trek, from James Bond to the Fast and the Furious. We'll review the theatrical films and streaming delights you care about most. And I think theatrical films are on the horizon. It will happen. It will happen soon, I feel. I'm hoping. Am I being too optimistic? Maybe. All right. But tonight, we're talking about TV show. We're talking about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 3, streaming now on Disney+. I am your host, Doc Rotten, and joining me tonight are the Group Crew. Starting off with Chris Slattery, the Slattman. How you doing, sir?
Good. I was not expecting Group Crew there. I don't know why, but that really caught me off guard.
All right. Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. Sir, how you doing?
I'm Madripoor to the core, my friend.
Oh, you are. Oh my. That is a great city to bring into this particular storyline, and there's going to be a lot of discussion about that and other things. But we are going to save a lot of that for the spoilers. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to give our first impression, and then we're going to talk about the show. And when we talk about the show, at that point, we're just going to go all spoilers. So keep that in mind if you haven't watched it yet. After first impressions, spoilers will go out. We'll warn you again. And then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. But let's take a look at what we're talking about. We are talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier, Episode 3. It debuted April 2nd, 2021. It's called Power Broker, directed by Kerry Skoglund and written by Derek Kolstad. The cast includes Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, Daniel Brühl, Amelia Van Camp, as you see in the picture there, Wyatt Russell, Daniel Ramirez, Clay Bennett, Carl Lumley, Aaron Kellyman, Amy Aquino, Elijah Richardson, and others. The synopsis is to find the source of the Super Soldier Serum. Wow, they're really after me with that one. Sam and Bucky must scale the ladder of lowlights, starting in Madripoor with the one and only Zemo, who drops the Baron name on us here. Oh my gosh. All right. I said no spoilers on I just throw one right out of the gate. Yes, the Baron. Zemo.
I mean, that one's not really important to the story. I think it's just kind of more like, how the hell did he do this?
No, it's just a slight little tease too. But let's get into this. Let's find out what our first impressions were of this episode. And Slattman, you are up first, sir.
I loved it. I thought it was a great episode. It had some really good action, better than really good, actually. Very good, extremely good action. Madripoor was incredible. From everything about it, from the I can't think of the word. I really can't. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's escaped me. But it's great. From
I don't know what the word is.
A description, an adjective about Madripoor. We're just gonna move on. Madripoor is great. Madripoor was very well done. Lots of great little references in it, and the characters that they introduced, and they're not really new characters, but they're excellent, and I'm so happy they brought them back.
Yes, it was a good weekend to drop a lot of Easter eggs on us, right?
Yes.
See what I did there? Yes. All right. Let's find out what Christopher G. Moore thought. Sir, what was your first impression of episode 3?
How dare you make a pun? This is my favorite episode so far. And I don't know. I think it's just we finally sort of getting full blast into the story, and I just love how they're taking characters and they're putting new spins on them. I mean, we sort of already have that with the new Captain America character, who's really starting to like, oh God, this guy's not so good. And then we have I don't know if we need to go into spoil a character, but we have a certain character from the movies that shows up, and that character.
Well, she was on the poster. So
okay. Sharon Carter shows up, and she's like totally different than what she was before, which is. I love that. I almost just want to see a side series just on her character living in Madripoor. And then we have the I keep wanting to call him Zema. He's not, not a bad drink from the 90s. Zemo. I love, because we sort of known him as just sort of this guy who's just was a villain in one of the previous Avenger films or whatever.
Civil War, yeah.
Yeah, and so now we get to sort of see a different side to where he's, he has a sense of humor for once, and I love the sort of the certain situations they get themselves into. Plus, this episode is pretty violent. I was like, there's some fight scenes. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of people getting killed and stabbed and shot and exploded, and I'm like, whoa, I was not expecting this. So it's got some really great action in it. And yeah, I just love the hell out of this episode. It just some of the visuals, especially just the look of Madripoor, which is almost like, I don't know what you compare it to, almost like Shanghai or just
Singapore,
Taiwan, Singapore or something but they have they also have the lighting of certain buildings like you see sometimes in Japan and other places. So it's almost like this villainous city where everything goes. So yeah, I love this a lot. I was really surprised, and I think I just liked how they sort of took characters and spin them up a little bit differently, to where we can see them in a different light, how sometimes people change, and we get to see different facets of people's personalities and what they're willing to do because of after certain situations they get themselves into. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, it moves along at a pretty fast click too, because we start off going to see Zemo in the prison, and before you know it, we're in Madripoor, and all kinds of hell's breaking loose before you know it. And a lot of characters introduced, themes are introduced, familiar places introduced. And Madripoor, of course, there's going to be a lot of discussion about that later on. But I enjoyed the hell out of this. This was really starting to click together. Getting Zemo in there and having him actually team up is really cool, because Baron Zemo, again, there's been a lot of discussion, has become a shadier character of the superhero element of Marvel, and it's really interesting. If you know what Thunderbolts are, we'll get into all that. So they're laying some groundwork here that's really interesting. I love that we get the Baron part of Baron Zemo, although I don't think he's ever going to be called Baron Zemo, but I just love that. We get the mask. There's a reason why that character worked in Civil War, and you can see that here, and they're actually building on that and making this character rich, and I don't mean financially, I mean character wise. He's very, there's a lot going on with him, and it's really interesting to see him use these other characters, use our characters, Bucky and Sam, and kind of get them in situations that maybe, that are necessary, but, might be perilous for them, and doesn't work out for Sam. Sam's not built for this, what spy hijinks kind of thing going on here. Because this is basically a spy show, right? It kind of feels that way, right? I mean, I'm not really sure 100% it is.
At least this episode felt like it.
Definitely this episode, yeah.
Or like a
very James
cop.
Bondy.
Well, yeah. Well, especially the outfits and stuff. Because, I mean, Zemo's based he's almost got like that Bond villain look about him.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you have once they're having to go into Madripoor and Sam's got that suit where he's supposed to be, was it Tiger or whatever that guy he's supposed to be like.
one of my favorite lines comes about that suit when Zemo's like, it's something along the lines of only an ignorant American like you would think that a black man dressed in fashion forward would be a pimp or something like that.
Yes.
I loved that line so much.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, and one thing I did want to point out is like the guy who wrote this episode actually created the John Wick franchise. And there is a moment where people's phones go off and there's a bounty on somebody's head. And so
there literally is.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And so basically it's almost like the John Wick films. And I think the violence and stuff that happens in the city, it's almost like that as well. But I love that aspect. Also, let me point something out that I haven't heard anybody say. But Zemo's his butler, helper, whoever he is almost like the Alfred of his weird universe.
Yes.
Played the father in Airplane. I think his name is Nicholas Hanby, I think is, or Nicholas Pryor. And which I recognized, was like, I feel like I've seen this guy before. He also starred in the movie called The Falcon and the Snowman. So it's weird that he's also starring in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But anyway, just a little trivial thing that I noticed.
Yes, which I'm desperately not trying to make that mistake and calling it that, and now you've entered it into my...
You're welcome. I'm always here to create pitfalls for you.
Yes. He's we do a horror show, and he was also in like Damien the Omen 2, which we just recently did on the 70s Decades of Horror. So yeah, I recognize him, and it was like, oh, who is he? And
well, he's definitely much older. I know him primarily from Airplane because I've seen that film like a million times, and where he's like, I'd like a second cup of coffee. And he's also on the Airplane. So
oh my God, he is on the airplane. He's a little
we have two different things.
Yeah. So just in case you didn't realize, we moved into the full discussion, and spoilers.
Just open it up.
Spoilers are happening now. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the writer, because this was a very violent episode. And I'm not sure. I think the last episode is the one where they put up the little extra tag on the show on Disney Plus, but this is a little bit more violent than you would expect from a Disney Plus show. Am I wrong there? Or is there no difference between this and all the other Marvel movies out there?
I would say it is, because that whole when Sharon Carter's taking out those people,
it's brutal.
I mean, she's stabbing people. She's throwing knives in people's arms. She's stabbing people. She's shooting people point blank
through a girl's like shoulder.
Oh yeah. Like, they do take the blood out of it, because a lot of that stuff is definitely choreographed to probably implements that are not there. I think one of the YouTube sites I go into, where they go throughout the whole thing, they mentioned there's a lot of you can sort of see that the person wasn't holding a knife, they were just holding a fake knife. But yeah, she's like taking people out and people getting shot, straight in the head, and it's pretty crazy violent, to where I was like, and I think I was kind of loving it because of Sharon Carter's character. And by the way, Sharon Carter, going from her sort of like what we've seen in the movies or whatever, and seeing here, where she's loving working on sort of like the other side of good, and being sort of a criminal of sorts, in this sort of criminal city. I love that aspect of it as well, to where it's like, you guys screwed me over there, so I'm just gonna try to be successful in this little part of the world.
Yeah.
And I love how they tie in yet another episode, like what happens to the people involved in these superhero movies that aren't the superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
Like it, and I feel, I don't know, it feels like that's kind of the theme of the show.
It kind of does, and it's she does mention, like, she helped steal the shield, right, when they were on the run. And of course, Bucky and the Falcon, they, Sam and Bucky, have gotten their pardons, right? They're working on their pardons, but she's been totally ignored. She's left to her own devices, she's still a renegade. So she's over here in Madripoor doing God knows what, and that's going to be some of the theories that we have later, I imagine. But yeah, she's turned into a badass, and we saw her a lot in Civil War, right? Because of that, and I'm in a long roundabout way. I'm leading off to a scene that got playback in this, and in the very funny scene that kind of made the Falcon and the Winter Soldier be a pair was in the Volkswagen Bug when Sharon was talking to, Captain America, right? Steve Rogers, Captain America, and it wouldn't bring the seat up, right, for Bucky in the back, and Bucky gets his revenge. And this one, when he jumps in the car, and will not bring the seat up for the Falcon. I don't know why I like that, but I thought that was a great callback. I can see the blank looks on your face. It's like, what is it?
No. I mean, it's a nice thing to where, Bucky finally got a little bit of revenge.
Could cross another one off his list.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I
know. Although
that's funny.
I think one thing that will be interesting, the repercussions of what they did in this. People were taking pictures of the Winter Soldier when he was hurting people, and so that'll be interesting if that comes back to bite him, like the snake that Sam had to drink. With the heart of the snake or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, I like this. This is my drink.
By the way, I understand there's a lot of idiots that are going a little bit too far when it comes to, dealing with the new Captain America. He's just a character, by the way. But I will say, man, there's that scene where John Walker, he's got a little bit of an attitude and a little bit of an anger issue. And there's like one scene where he says something about like, I don't want him to breathe, or when I was like, ooh, whoa. I was like, wow, they're really hammering some of this stuff home.
There's a dark side that we haven't been shown.
Yeah. Although I did hear that that they did have to alter some of the story in this episode, because originally the girl who's part of the Flag Smashers, when she goes to visit her mom, there was a storyline involving a pandemic that was being spread, and those boxes were supposed to be vaccines.
Oh, that's so ironic.
And they were like, this is a little too close to what's happening in this world right now. So they had to go back and change some of the scenes, add dialogue where people are walking off and stuff to sort of make that make sense, to where it's something a little bit more than that. But yeah, that was what it was supposed to be initially, because the woman who was sick, who's his mom, that's like a well-known actress that supposedly had scenes, but now we just see her just laying in the bed.
That explains a lot. Yeah, now we should talk about that character, Karli, real quick. It is revealed that they definitely have the Super Soldier Serum, and they have more, and they want to do something with it. But she also takes, she steps into what I'm trying to say is that you could see in the first couple episodes that she might be presented as the good guy, but she kind of crosses that line in this episode. What do we think of that? What do we think of her blowing up the building with all the guards and stuff inside?
I thought it was well done, because we were just as shocked as her partner was, and going to what they were taking from the like makeshift base, I guess, it was specifically supposed to be like supplies for people who returned from the blip and had nothing because 5 years, like refugees from the blip. And that feels so much like something that would happen in the real world. Is the government would, or shady organizations would set up these camps to help people, but hoard extra supplies and not actually give out everything. And so it makes you really think that no, she's doing good for the wrong reasons, kind of like a Robin Hood-esque, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then in an instant she goes from that like anti-hero to no, definitely a villain. When and you could see the transformation when she's talking to the soldiers that they've tied up. And I thought it was excellent. I think they're doing a good job of giving just enough backstory for her to be an interesting villain without over explaining.
I agree. We're getting a long build with her and her character. So everybody seems to be tied back to Madripoor and the Power Broker. So there's a lot to unpack there. But a little bit more about Madripoor should be discussed because on the lighter side of what we need to discuss, there's Hightown and Lowtown. We spend a good portion of this in Lowtown, but I think we're going to spend some time in Hightown next episode. Lowtown's where the criminals are. The Hightown's where the rich people are that basically fund the criminals to go doing bad things. It's really not a good place to be. But what's really important about this is that this is not new for the Marvel universe, even though it's new for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? This is a city that was introduced in Marvel Comics Presents #1 for the Wolverine story. He became Patch and spent a good amount of time in Madripoor, and it became a city that is tied to the X-Men, tied to Wolverine, tied to a lot of other characters. It's been given a history that's where like Wolverine and Captain America first met and battled and everything. There's all kinds of things, shady goodness going down in Madripoor, and we got our fill of it. And I am, as a Marvel zombie, this was a great decision, a great choice, and a really interesting way to kind of start easing us into the X-Men without showing X-Men. I mean, WandaVision kind of did the same thing a little bit, right? With some things that happened there. What do you guys think of that, of the Madripoor in that respect? Christopher G. Moore.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's the interesting thing about what they're doing with some of these shows is showing different parts of the universe. And one thing we really haven't really delved that much into is a lot of this sort of like the criminal aspect
Underbelly,
underbelly, you know, and that's and so that's what I love about this is showing this thing that we've always seen in comics, and I'm not sure if there's ever been any kind of representation in animated or stuff before, but this is a really interesting new, to where you have this part of the world where laws do not work, other than the criminal structure. We have a sort of like anonymous character called the Power Broker.
Power Broker is somebody we got to talk about.
Could this tie into the Mandarin? Who's has his dealings with a lot of the criminal universe, and is it Shang-Chi or what is that?
Yeah, movie? And that's coming out.
Which will have the Mandarin. So this would be a good way to sort of maybe introduce him or some other villain. And because that could be a very interesting thing. I mean, you could easily see the Mandarin sort of doing the same thing like they did in the Iron Man movie, where we have someone else representing the Mandarin. So yeah, and to have the two different class systems when it comes to the criminal universe, and just the look of it, it just sort of it adds a whole different thing to it, outside of us just them being Falcon the Winter Soldiers going to this town or that town or whatever. So visually it adds a whole lot more, and it's just a much more cooler place to see these characters interact, especially when they're having to sort of go undercover and be these type of characters. So yeah, I think that's what I loved about it, is just seeing that them bringing to life this sort of like different part of the world other than just, them doing what they normally do in these type of in the films and TV shows.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the power broker, ends up being revealed as. There's a couple of choices here. Well, there's a theory out there I want to discuss, but in the history of comics, the power broker is definitely involved with the Super Soldier Serum, and not only is responsible for a lot of bad guys, but a couple characters we've already met. It'll be interesting to see if that comes to fruition here.
Well, and also some people are connecting maybe that they may connect the super serum to possibly those elements that they used in Black Panther to bring him, to turn him into Black Panther and bring him back to life and stuff.
I didn't hear about that, but that's a good story. The Captain America or U.S. Agent and Battlestar are two of the characters that were created by Power Broker, along with the Falcon character that isn't Sam. That's actually what is his last name? I keep forgetting. Torres, right?
Torres,
who is in the show. His Falcon is a little bit more of has wings. We'll get into all that, but it's so there's a lot going on here, and I've heard theories, and I was thinking the same thing. Is Sharon, the way she's acting, might end up being the power broker here? You think that's too much? No, not buying it.
I don't think so. I don't think she'd be interacting so much with everything if she was the power broker.
I don't think so either. I think if she's working for somebody, it's another third source. Maybe she's involved with Sword.
I've thought about that. I thought about like this is all a cover, and she's not going to break the cover at all, even with Bucky and Sam, especially with Zemo running around with them.
Mm-hmm.
They do make an interesting trio of characters, though. I like the three of them together. There is a complication though, and that complication does come up at the end of the show. Zemo, the little bastard, is responsible for the death of King T'Challa, right? T'Challa's father, and Wakanda is not happy about him not being in jail. And we get one of the characters showing up at the end.
Ayo.
Yes. What'd you think of that there, Slattman? Was that
it was excellent.
How are they going to get out of that? How are they going to prevent this? Because she's not going to be forgiving. She's on a mission, right?
No. I think we might get a Bucky and Falcon go off on their own different ways, because I think Bucky's going to have to stall.
You think so?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm grasping at straws at this point.
It is an interesting pickle that I didn't think of right away when I saw it. But then after, because it happens pretty quick, it's right at the end, and I was like, oh crap, I know this is not going to go well. She's going to kick ass, and there's no failing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
For her. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. It's definitely going to be part of the next episode. It's got to resolve somehow. Maybe he'll take her to the Princess Bar for a drink. Now we got to talk about that.
Nice transition.
Yes. Now the Princess Bar shows up briefly as I think Sam's looking around and he sees the Princess Bar, and maybe it was Bucky. Princess Bar, of course, is where Patch worked, and Patch, of course, was Wolverine, Logan. So that has significance that maybe casual fans didn't know, maybe even hardcore fans didn't know. If you weren't, it kind of came right to me like, yes, there was a lot going on, but I was prepared for it. So to be fair, but this is just. Is it just catering to fanboys? Is it just, or are they planting seeds here for what everybody wants? And that's
they have a plan.
They have a plan.
They would not be, after acquiring the license. It is not a coincidence that they put that in there. I think that what they are doing is brilliant. They are explaining this. They're explaining the Madripoor. They're explaining what it is. They're explaining the environment. They're putting hints and stuff and saying, no, this is here all along. So when they do eventually bring in Wolverine, they don't have to do a crazy exposition dump.
Because we've already gotten all the locations.
It's something that I would argue that Marvel has done a great, like, has done a great job of, and has strived to do so well over the last 10 years. And that's really building up the cinematic universe as exactly that, as a cinematic universe. They've really tied everything together. It's just like the comics where, you could see Spider-Man, swinging around Manhattan, and you could see the Avengers Tower, in the background. Or the Fantastic Four Tower in the background, or, the Fantastic Four, and you could see the Daily Bugle and stuff like that. It makes it feel like one big world, so they don't have to sit there and do a crazy amount of exposition on where the hell are we when we get a new character or a new story.
And what's interesting about this, and I think, Christopher, you can back me up on this, is that it's a lot what they're doing over The Mandalorian too, right? The Mandalorian's kind of following this, where we're revisiting Tatooine and we're seeing characters that we're familiar, but we're also being introduced to a whole lot of new characters and new scenarios, and it really works, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Marvel's been doing that throughout. I mean, Kevin Feige's always had hints of this or that, and little breadcrumbs, leading you that you don't think that's part of something, and then later on you're like, oh, that makes sense. So yeah, and it's a great way to do that. And the thing is, it's one of those things to where it's not going to hurt anything to show the Princess Bar, even if it never shows up anywhere again. But we know it's there, so that when they do start introducing X-Men, and when whoever the new Wolverine is, when he comes back, we know he's probably going to go to that bar at some point. A lot of times those characters are going to have to go to the criminal element to get certain things. And so now we've at least given, we've opened the door for that whenever they decide to walk through. And I think that's the cool thing, you don't necessarily have to have a person walk by and the guy's grabbing a drink and then, knives come out his fist and that's all you see. You don't necessarily have to show every little thing, but just showing the hints at the possibility of it, so that when they do have the opportunity to start telling those stories and start expanding it within under the Marvel name, they can do that. And I think that's the cool, and of course they also know people love Easter eggs, and so anybody who's a comic book lover and then knows those type of things, when you see ooh, so that, it's a very cool thing to do.
I kind of like that they're not rushing into it. I like that we're getting, they're kind of teasing us here and teasing us there. We're getting little elements of it, and I don't know, it just makes it feel like it's going to be that much more special.
Now, if we spend a lot of time in Lowtown, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there an expansion in Hightown?
There could have been.
Could we see that in the background of next episode if we spend a lot of time? That would seal it for me, and that would be no, they're definitely planting seeds and not just Easter eggs at that point.
Yeah, not Professor X's mansion. It was a different one.
It was an X mansion though that had. I thought that was the case.
Well, they have spent time in Madripoor, yes.
Well, you've got to realize, even though these are telling their own little stories just on the Disney Plus service, they're also sort of creating the gradients for what we made into what we consider the theatrical experience. So a lot of times the reason they put those in there a lot of times isn't just because, oh, this is just for fan service. A lot of times it means that they have hopefully have plans for that. And so, yeah, I'm sure. After WandaVision, we're all sort of going through and
we're picking everything.
Pausing it here, looking there. Did I see that character?
Fine-tooth comb.
Yeah. Oh, that person to where it's almost to the point like, oh, that person's hair is this color, so that must be that character from the comic books. It can get a little bit crazy, so we don't want to read too much in it. But that's the cool possibility, because also we're only seeing a small segment of this underground belly of the criminal world, and so there could be even more that they haven't shown yet.
Yeah, because Dr. Nagel is part of it, or at least his father is. And Selby, of course, is a character from the comics as well, although they gender swapped her. Or swapped him to her. But Selby, spoilers, gets murdered. Now, who is did Sharon shoot him? Sorry. Did Sharon shoot her? Or did somebody else do that?
That's where I think she might be working for somebody. Because, I don't know. It seemed like she was conveniently in the right place when I don't know if she could have gotten from point A to point B that fast.
Right. They don't literally show us who pulls that trigger, right? But she's there. So.
And wasn't she in the crowd beforehand? And
she was in the crowd beforehand. She's the person that puts the hood over.
So are you telling me that she was in the crowd? She instinctively knew that was going to happen. So she had a sniper rifle waiting. She managed to get to open the window up and goop, and then save them again, and then magically go down all the flights of stairs and just show up perfectly? Or are there more than one person?
There's a lot to unravel there, a lot to digest, and a lot of fun kind of getting there, because there's something going on. Will we get all that here? I don't know if we'll get all this here.
Well, and I think also with this episode, it's interesting the symmetry between the pairs of people that are trying to do things, because whether that be the flag smasher girl and then her partner who realizes this isn't what I signed up for, you have John Walker and his sidekick Battlestar, and you can sort of see Battlestar is like, this isn't what you're supposed to be doing.
Hoskins.
Yeah, and then also you have, Sam and Bucky, where Bucky's like, let's do this crazy thing. And Sam's sort of going along with it, but he's still questioning, like, is this what we should be doing? So it's kind of interesting how all these different people are sort of questioning the motives, and is this the right way to go about it? Is this what I'm trying to do? So it is kind of interesting how these different pairings and how that's going to affect them later on by the decisions they make.
One last thing we should talk about with Zemo is, a lot of people were wondering, why didn't we get the mask when he showed up in Civil War? People were wondering because he's always wore the mask. His father, who was an old time villain from Captain America days, he actually had an entirely different type of mask. It was kind of creepy, but Helmut Zemo, this particular Zemo, does end up leading a group called the Thunderbolts, and which is one of the
Isn't Red Hulk part of that?
Red Hulk became part of that. Yes. And so it is, Thunderbolt Ross ended up leading the Thunderbolts later. Now we do have, Ross also involved with trying to get, super soldiers. That's all part of what the Abomination was about, right? So there's a lot of angles to come together with this, and a lot of characters being introduced that could end up being part of this,
Thunderbolts would be an interesting way to bring Deadpool into the MCU.
That's not a bad idea. And when you hear rumors about other Avengers movies, Thunderbolts is probably they'll probably call it the Dark Avengers instead of Thunderbolts, because I know I like Thunderbolts much better. Depends on how it happens, but
Thunderbolts sponsored by Apple.
Yes.
But I will say that that shot when he's walking with that mask looks very similar to the Joker in Dark Knight.
Oh wow, I didn't think about that. Yes,
when he pulled off that initial heist in that is it Dark Knight Returns? It's very similar how they shoot that, where the camera goes in and he's holding the mask.
Yeah, it was good to see, and he obviously could kick ass, so that was kind of good to see. That he's not just he can actually take action. He's a man of action as well as.
Well, he's like I think I saw someone call him the anti-Batman.
Yep. I think Slattman even said that in the pre-show.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've talked a lot about this particular episode. I think we've all had a great time with it. So I think we should wrap things up, given our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. But before we do, if you're listening, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us. This is a lot of fun. We miss Vanessa. We wish she was with us. We hope she's feeling better. We'll definitely be back next week for the next one. So we hope you enjoy those. You can check the stream for other reviews for the previous episodes, and also WandaVision, Mandalorian, and other really interesting and fun shows and movies that are in the superhero action kind of thing. We hope you enjoy that. If you would like to support us, it's really easy to do, and it's free. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button or share with a friend. Really easy, and it would do us a great deal. We would thank you so much. You could also hit the like button, dislike button. There's a bell if you want to get reminded, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think Sharon is the power broker? If she's not, is it what do you think? Do you think it's the who do you think it is? The guy with the 10 rings, right?
Yeah, I think it's the Mandarin.
The Mandarin, yes, but not Kevin Slattery. So. Which was, I don't know, it was kind of fun to do that one character. But anyway, there's a different reason for that. It has nothing to do with the movie. If you look closely, you might figure it out. All right, let's do this. We really need to thank our patrons. So let me give you a quick moment to do that. Without their help over at patreon.com, we wouldn't be able to do not only Heroes of Droids, Decades of Horror, News Radio, and the Gruesome Magazine. We really thank you. Thank you so much. And I need to update this and get our new patrons on here. But I'm thinking of you. If you don't see your name on there, I am thinking of you. Thank you all so very much. All right, let's do this. Our final thoughts, our score, and favorite scene. We'll see if we can actually do this quickly or not, but I think we have a lot to say. Go ahead, Slattman. You're up first.
This episode was great. It does a lot of very good environmental storytelling. It does a lot of setting up for future Marvel properties, whether that's more TV shows or movies. It really pushes the story along. We didn't even really talk about the scientist and everything that happened with him.
That's right, we didn't.
And that really just kind of that kind of, I don't know. There's so many different ways they could take this, and it'll be very interesting. And I have a feeling that it's going to be Bucky Barnes versus other Captain America, who turns out to not be so good in the end and turns into what I assume will be the MCU's version of Captain Hydra.
Oh, well, that's another thing that could happen. Yeah, instead of doing U.S. Agent. Oh,
yeah. Ooh. If they inject him with Super Soldier Serum and he just kind of goes on a rampage, and his target is must kill Falcon, must kill Bucky. I
didn't think of that. That's actually a good way to kind of wrap those two ideas together, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Zemo could have stolen one of those vials when they were in that.
Yeah. So we did see the last of the vials of the serum.
They were just sitting there like
somebody snuck one. I'm pretty sure of it. That's what happens, right? You get the cube, you get the vials. You gotta sneak whatever is valuable out of the room.
Yeah,
as it's on fire.
But yeah, we only have 3 more episodes, and God, they've really for for lack of better terms, for us bitching about the first episode, this series has come a long way. And it's really like they've even like some stuff that happened in the first episode has already paid off, like the relationship that he has with that Falcon has with his sister. Like that played into a great scene. And I really think that's probably going to come to bite him in the ass later, but you know, I love it. I thought this episode was fantastic. It really, it's a great example of how to tell a story without spoon feeding everything, which I know we were complaining about or at least Christopher G. Moore had some issues about with the first 2 episodes. And I thought they did a much better job about that. Even the scene where with the scientist, it didn't really feel like spoon feeding because our main characters needed to know this information. So it was a convenient way for them to learn it as well as us. So I don't know. I loved it. I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Nice.
And my favorite scene is actually the prison breakout.
I like the way it was done. Yes. We should mention that, Sam poses as Smiling Tiger, a character that is in the Marvel Universe as a villain and looks like Sam. So Anthony Mackie could legitimately play that bad guy and be 2 characters in the Marvel Universe. Isn't that awesome? All right. Just throwing it out there. Throwing that out there.
That had nothing to do with the prison breakout.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I thought you were saying we needed to talk about that scene.
No, we did. You did. Anyway, G-More, what was your final thoughts, your scored favorite scene?
Well, I mean, like he mentioned, one of my biggest issues with the first 2 episodes is the exposition. I thought they were handled very poorly, a little ham-handed wise, and really kind of irritated me. This episode, I had no issues with it whatsoever. They worked it in, even explaining how can we break Zemo out of prison? They use it as a hypothetical thing that actually happened. And they intercut between the 2, which is a great way to edit that into it.
That's why it was my favorite scene.
I know. Exactly. I mean, it's really a really great way of doing that. But throughout this, they used information from the first 2 episodes to sort of inform it. But any kind of exposition was done in a way that felt natural and didn't feel like, oh, I'm giving information right now. And we sort of also have the build up. We get to see a little bit more of the John Walker character and how he's definitely no, Chris Evans. He's definitely no, I forgot the name of it.
Steve Rogers.
Steve Rogers. And we see that issue. And then also just I love Madripoor. I just loved it.
Yes,
when they're walking in slow motion in their outfits and stuff. I was like, man, if I didn't have a goatee, I want to be Zemo. I want to get cosplay Zemo walking slow motion in places. Or do this little dance.
Oh, the dance, yes.
But yeah, I loved every moment of it. And I was like, wow, I'm glad that they had some just crazy great fight choreography and not really holding back on the violence and stuff. I definitely felt very John Wick, but I guess that kind of helps when the guy wrote it, created the franchise. Yeah, and I love what they did with Sharon Carter. I mean, just because we sort of like almost feels like a different person, but I was like, man, I want this badass Sharon Carter, how she's like, you know what, I got the skills, so I'm just going to go over to the other side and do my part until I can get some help. But yeah, I love this episode so much. I love the visuals of Madripoor. Please make this a land in Disney World, or if you now that you have the Marvel, create your own Marvel land. Because I want to go on that bar, and I don't know if I'll have the snake heart shot, but I would love to sort of see that sort of element somehow worked its way into the park, because I would definitely go there. As for rating, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 because I enjoyed every minute of this. I think this is when storytelling hit its speed and it wasn't bogged down in trying to like explain so much stuff, at least in a way that is, this way they made it more entertaining. As for favorite scene, I'll probably say when they showed up in Madripoor.
Yes.
In their badass outfits and slow motion. I really like that a lot. But yeah, I love this episode so much because it made me smile so much because it just had a sense of humor about it, and just taking these characters and flipping them a little bit to where you like them. Because I've never really liked the Zemo villain that much, but in here I kind of like him, even though he's, something's up there and he's probably gonna do something to screw people over at some point.
Yeah, he's more Loki than Thor, that's for sure. Yes. I love this episode. It hit. I think the show has found its footing, right? I think that's what we were trying to find. We were like, what are you really going to do? Where are your characters? You didn't have them together at the beginning. Now we not only do we have them together, we're getting our other characters that we want to see, and it's all working out really well. This was fast paced. It was long because I think it's like 55 minutes. I mean, it is
Didn't feel like it to me,
but it goes by really quick. Right. And it really, it's clicking. All the elements are together. The storytelling, like you said, has improved. Definitely noticeable, even though I wasn't giving as much grief as you were. Not that I didn't disagree, but you definitely notice that, like when even when he's on the plane explaining things, it's done in a way that is much more natural, much more part of the conversation, part of what they're doing. It doesn't feel forced, right? And there's a lot of like getting from point A to B and C. There's a lot of that. There's they go from heading in to escaping to getting Madripoor to going here. There's a lot going on in here. And other characters as well. So it's handled with finesse. This episode is what I was wanting out of this show. All right. We've gotten some really great action sequences. Like the first one, we had the whole plane thing. The second one, we had the trucks. This one was the whole episode. Even the quieter moments, the whole episode was it was just great, right? And I didn't catch the writer thing until you told me on the pre-show, which is great, because you really do feel that element in here, and I think it's a really good fit for these two characters. And I really like the two characters. I like the less mopey Bucky, where he's where he knows his place. He feels more comfortable here, right? He felt so awkward and out of place in the previous episode. I mean, that was on purpose. I'm not knocking it, but he's in his element here, right? So his character is starting to click and jive, and it really, it works. And as a Marvel fan, a longtime Marvel fan, Marvel zombie, ages, seeing these characters and seeing all the hints and the Easter eggs, it's really just, it's such a joy. This is a fun time, and I can't wait to catch the remaining 3 episodes, and then we have to wait till June for Loki, which we dropped a trailer today, and it looks fantastic, by the way. So I'm going to give this a 5 as well, because it represents what I wanted out of the show. I was originally going to do 4.75, but you talked me into it there, Christopher G. Moore, because this show really did what I wanted, right? It did what I wanted, and you gotta reward it for that. Favorite scene. There's a lot to choose from, and I'm going to have to go with Sharon Carter. Because the 3 of them go in and talk to the scientist guy, right? And she's out there beating down all the
whole groups of people.
So these groups of people are coming to get the 3 of them, and then Sharon Carter by herself is doing the John Wick on them, and it's well choreographed. You know what she's doing. Where they are, even though it's in a shipyard. You don't feel lost, and it's just really well done. And she kicks ass and is great doing it. I really loved it. I almost thought she was going to do the Black Widow move, and she does something a little different. So I was happy about that.
She like stabs a guy with his own knife.
Yeah, but she almost did the flip around the head thing, but she did it a little different, and it worked out well. So, but yeah,
I know. I was like enjoying the hell out of that thing. I was like, oh, ah. I was like, man, she's killing people left and right. Oh, by the way, I also love the fight scene in the club.
Yes.
When Winter Soldiers and Zemo keeps
yes.
throwing people at him to fight. I was laughing about that because I was like, because Zemo's just wanting to like make it even bigger by throwing these people in there for him to harm.
I like that he does the faking out the thing where he says, kill him, do it, and he has like he's in charge. It
yeah,
really
I mean that's
the whole circumstance.
Well, and that's interesting. Like I mean, what you said earlier is perfect. Is like he's felt so out of sorts being in the normal life that's all he knows is acting like the Winter Soldier. I mean, they even had that scene where he's actually using the same book that Steve Rogers was using to sort of come to reality, to see where the world is today, and he's doing that to sort of to right his wrongs in that as well. And so it is kind of weird how he feels more comfortable being that bully than he is trying to be something more than that. So
it'll be interesting to see how this changes that character, or, because I don't want to see him in that rut he was in the first 2 episodes. That wasn't fun.
No. I don't know. I was kind of thinking, well, maybe it might be kind of good if he stays in a gray area.
Well, I mean, so I missed this, but apparently he was a part of the Thunderbolts for a while and even led it for a while. So do you think that if say that Falcon takes up the Captain America mantle at the end of this series, and apparently Mr. John Walker was a part of the Thunderbolts at one point too. Do you think him, Zemo, and do you think Bucky, Zemo, and John Walker might finally like shake hands and go hunt down the rest of the super soldiers?
Yep, and Sharon Carter as well.
And Sharon Carter, because they could easily tie that in, and who knows what's going to happen with the with Black Widow. But I mean, if for some reason they write her back into this universe with that, or one of her sisters could be a part of it.
They've talked about, I've heard the rumor that of course they're not saying anything now because Black Widow hasn't come out. It's not coming out until July now, right? Why wait? But that the sister that's being introduced in that will be part of it too.
Yeah, like that could easily become the Thunderbolts.
And Abomination could really, people are just throwing names in left and right. Abomination,
Norman Osborn.
Now, if we do get that, he was a part of. That's when they were the Dark Avengers.
Yeah.
But I definitely think if they do a Red Hulk, the Red Hulk will be a part of it.
But like the writing is on the wall that if they want to do Thunderbolts, they have a way to incorporate the characters in this show into their own. Into their own iteration of the Thunderbolts.
Yeah, the Thunderbolts are kind of like the Suicide Squad, not in the fact that they're on suicide missions, but that they bring in just various bad guys to do the dirty work, right? They do the dirty work. They do the Madripoor, missions. So we could get
and what is
villains? Just
Hammer? Justin Hammer could be a part of it too, if they decide to bring him back.
They could bring in just about anybody they wanted to that they wanted to bring in. It's exciting, and they are laying the groundwork for it, but they haven't said anything. This is all conjecture, right? It's
it's the same way that they're kind of like laying the groundwork for Young Avengers, but they haven't said anything about it yet.
No, but it's all there. It's all there. So
you're saying there's all kinds of Thunderbolt connections here?
Oh, there's tons. They're all over the place. Yeah. Thunderbolt connections.
I'm sorry, I just made another.
You got me. I wouldn't even. I just fell right into that. Wow. Yeah. I mean, because there are rumors that I read that that there's multiple Avengers shows and movies on the horizon, and I think Thunderbolts is one of them. I think Young Avengers is one of them. Of course, another actual Avengers. They've been talking about a female-led Avengers, which is like the A Force. So there's all kinds of opportunities for them to actually take that on. So, and they're not playing they're not showing their hand, right? They're teasing, but they're not showing their hand. And I love it. It is a wonderful.
Phase 4 has been fantastic so far.
Yeah. It's just a wonderful time to be a fan and enjoying all these shows and teasing this when you know just enough. All right. Well, we've been doing this for an hour, which is longer than the show, so I think we should stop. Slattman, Christopher, I want to thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun. I think I could talk about another 30 minutes, maybe a couple of hours more about this. There's so much more to say.
Oh, we could theorize for hours.
Thank you so much for joining me.
It's always fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.